What's happening?
Hey, I'm just organizing. That's all. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Let me see my video. Yes, Camlink 4K. Yes. It
Those things
it don't get any more. What's that?
are those cam links are gold right now.
Dude. So I'm gonna tell you my Camlink story. Do you know Eddie Tapp?
Yeah.
Eddie lives about a mile and a half from me,
Oh, nice.
and I've been working with him since March on this video training project. I've been sort of a production assistant with Eddie. And early on, I was like, you need to get Camlink. And he's like, okay. So we looked at it. And of course, you couldn't get one.
Right.
So he ordered one on some random electronics website. He's like, I'm going to order it. I don't know. And like a month and a half ago, two of them came. And he was like, oh, and I'm like, I couldn't even imagine what it was he was so excited about. And then he held the box up, and I went, oh, I couldn't believe it. Didn't pay $400 for it, paid 132, but whatever the retail price was, got two of them. And he was like, you know what, man, thanks for doing such a good job. And he throws one to me. I was like,
Oh, sweet.
this is like better than Christmas, dude. It was so cool.
That's amazing.
I just did a video last week. I've been really working on my YouTube channel, and I did a video about ISO and how cranking up the ISO. I also learned that it's ISO and not ISO, so I'm trying to train myself that that cranking that up is similar to cranking up the gain on a guitar amp.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
plugged in one of my electric guitars, and as I turn the gain up, you can hear the distortion start. I'm like, it's the same thing, but with noise instead of sound, and so fun times.
Why do you call it ISO when it's it's an acronym, it's an abbreviation?
Well, but it's not. So if you go to the organ, because I thought the same thing for 20 plus years now. So it's the International Organization of Standards, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
IOS. And it said there's a blurb on their website that says since it's, we can't have an acronym because in different languages, the initials would be in different orders. So it's the Greek word ISO means same. So it says, like I said, on the International Organization of Standards website, it says, so whatever language, whatever ISO, it's ISO.
I'm looking it up
Like,
right now.
crazy, right? Because I thought the same thing. Well, it's international standards. No, it's not. It's International Organization of Standards.
Oh, how
So
funny.
there, yeah.
Something that somebody thought through. That's pretty cool.
Right? And the Greek word ISO means same.
Oh my gosh. That's
How
pretty
about
cool.
that crap?
That's
Yeah,
that's gonna
pretty neat.
ruin my brain for a year now. I'm gonna keep saying ISO. No, I mean ISO.
ISO. Yes, I did the same thing, and in my video, like I wanted it to be right, but I still said ISO half the time at least.
Well, it's
But
like
whatever.
anytime I hear anybody talk about Mono Lake, I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was there and I was in Bridgeport and I was at this little museum and there's this lady there and she's like, "So what are you guys doing?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we were out at Mono Lake." She goes, "Mono's a disease. It's Mono Lake." And she was dead serious. I never
Yeah,
forgot that. I'm not sure if she's right. She was serious. So
yeah.
so now I'm always like really self-conscious because I think it was named after like the Mono Indians, but
Oh, there you go. Well, that makes sense.
don't ask me. I'm just making that up.
I hear you, man. Ask the locals, and I'll do whatever they do. Yeah,
At least while we're there, right?
right. Yeah.
Perfect.
But that was the last thing I wanted was to do a video and have like some internet cowboy being like, it's actually ISO and not ISO.
There's always
Yeah.
somebody. I got nailed
Oh
with
my god.
Boca.
Uh huh.
We did a thing with Frederick and I made some comment about Boca, and then somebody sent me his bouquet, and then there's this video of this Japanese guy saying it like this is how you're supposed to say it, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what? All my friends know what I mean. That's what I'm gonna say. If I change the name, they're gonna be confused. So it's gonna be Boca.
Yes. I know. I actually was at an event in Northern California. It was I don't know, some live thing that Frederick did. This was about 147 years ago. And I did a little presentation for this group, and there was a Japanese guy there, like a person from Japan. He's like, no, it's actually a bokeh. I'm like, you got it. That's a Japanese word. I'm in. Bokeh. Got it.
There's always that. There's always that.
I figured
So,
he would know. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, Carl in the chat says some of us remember ASA speed.
That's right. That's right.
I do remember that. Yeah, I shot film for a long time. Did you shoot film for very long?
Not really. No.
Really?
It's funny. I've been an artist my whole life, but I wish I'd gotten into photography. Like all the shows that I played when I was a kid, and I wish I had pictures of all that stuff, but
I
it just wasn't a thing.
It's going to age me a little bit, but I've been shooting for 30 years, and the first
Hmm.
half of my career, probably the first 12 years or so, I shot film, and I shot Hasselblad.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I learned. And then, when you transition to digital, you just build on that layer of what you know
Right.
about film. And I really feel sad kind of for people learning photography today, because one, you kind of missed out on that learning foundation of film, but also you're no longer just a photographer. You're a color specialist, you're, an IT guy, like, there's so much more. If I wanted
That's
to
right.
something off a negative, I shipped it to my lab, and then I called them and said, yeah, I need a 5x7 and two 16x20s, and they took care.
Right. Yeah, man. I get it. And I totally understand why, someone who came up in film and learned that would be mad about digital, because the price of entry just is so much lower. Not even just a real cost necessarily, but the amount of knowledge that you needed to be a successful film photographer, it was so much greater than really what you have to know to like buy an entry level camera and make pictures now. But
Yep.
and I also, like you said, I think people, they hear, well, you have to shoot raw. Okay, well then you have to learn Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever, Capture One or whatever. So now you're learning. You have this tool, this physical tool that you're trying to learn, and you have the software that you're trying to learn. And I don't know about you. In my experience, people, whichever one they get the hang of first is what they rely on. And so often it's Photoshop.
Right.
They learn to fix their mistakes with the camera instead of learning how to get a good exposure and then polish it in Photoshop. And I think that's a shame.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of a bummer. I mean, when I started my career, when you shot in Hasselblad, it costs $1 for every time I push the button. And I was
Mm-hmm.
I was poor as dirt for the first 5-ish years of my business before it really kicked off. So we would go shoot a wedding, and I'd be like, "Ooh, is that no, no, it's not worth the dollar." And it makes you
Yeah,
start to pre-visualize. It makes you start to edit things in your head, and it really makes you a better photographer. Um,
that's right.
Not that you can't do that starting with digital, but it's a discipline that you have to sort of force yourself into, and
Right.
stop, looking at the back of the screen so much and relying on all that. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So we've got a full house. We got a bunch of people in here. We got like 20 people in the chat. I've got Peter.
Steam powered. That's good.
It was kind of steam
It's
powered.
it's such. I mean, it really is a hassle. You have to carry around a pocket full of coal, and then the water gets everywhere. I mean, it's a hassle. It really is. That's why they call it a Hasselblad, right?
Well, that's funny. I'd never heard that. That's terrible. That's so good.
I'm sorry. You bring me on one time, and then I come out
Love
with that.
it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I love it. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We've already kind of started, so this is good. But this is my new and very good friend, Rob Knight. We did an image critique with Frederick from This Week in Photo. Many of you guys are from This Week in Photo from Twip Pro, and Rob and I just kind of hit it off. We started talking about infrared, and
Hmm.
Frederick talks about doing infrared, but he's never done it. Um, and I thought, this is a great conversation. And we have several people in the chat that have been very interested in infrared. because I've been sort of always talking about it and pushing it. So I think we got a few people that are just interested to hear how infrared plays.
Cool.
Interesting how we started our conversation. We were talking about, you know, film and the discipline of film and then moving to digital. Um, Shooting infrared in film was awful. I tried it. This is one of those things where digital really does make it amazing and make it fun, right? Because it's
Yeah.
so easy. It's so easy to do that. So before we get started, all right, Peter, you can't chat to me in the Q&A. You know better. Peter is
Peter,
he's a
come
good
on,
friend. I
Peter.
know Peter.
You know better.
He's a troublemaker. Yeah.
I can tell. I could tell already. Yeah.
So for the rest of you, you guys kind of know how this works. Please put your questions in the Q&A, and then I'll sort of bring them up as we chat through the conversation. I know Rob can see them as well, so that'll kind of prep his brain for when we hit those. But it's going to be a casual conversation. We got some images to go over and some content that we're going to cover. But basically, this is for you guys. So if there's some information that you want, you got to let me know. So, and then the chat is open. That chat is there for you guys to chat with each other. And I get a transcript of the chat as I remind you guys every time. So if you're gonna if you're gonna make fun of me privately, I'll still see it. So
Terrence says your audio is in and out. Your audio sounds fine to me, but I don't know.
yeah, it could be Zoom, it could be the connection.
Sure.
I can't control that, so you know it's Zoom. So Rob, before we jump into it any further, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, and maybe one of your latest projects or something to kind of introduce yourself to everybody.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. First of all, it's really nice to come hang out, and it's funny how it works sometimes. Where like, yeah, I'll get on with this guy Troy, and then like we were instantly buddies and cutting up and talking smack. That's great. So thanks for having me on. But yeah, my name's Rob Knight, and I'm currently an Olympus educator. I've been leading photography workshops for about 10 years. I kind of specialize in Costa Rica because I go there 2 or 3 times a year with workshop groups and otherwise. So that's kind of my specialty, as it were. But I also do like Route 66 in Arizona and coastal Maine, and I've done lots of workshops, lots of different places. But yeah, I've used small cameras and the mirrorless camera, specifically Micro Four Thirds, for about 8 or 9 years, and have kind of been an evangelist for that system, ever since. So that's what I do. It's funny, we were talking about infrared, and then I got this printed. This is a 5 by 5 foot peel and stick mural that Eddie Tapp printed for me because I wanted to have a more interesting backdrop for my webinars and my YouTube videos than just my wall. So it's actually an infrared picture from Costa Rica.
Nice.
So yeah, I actually, whatever I'm talking about on Zoom, I always change my background out to match. So you're welcome.
That's very cool.
Not really.
And you mentioned Costa Rica, and I know that Frederick reached out to you and started talking about doing a Costa Rica trip with his group, right, with the TWIP program.
Yes.
And Alicia Lozer, who is in the chat, she started that conversation.
Alicia.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for starting that chat. 'Cause I've been talking, Frederick and I have been talking and dancing around going to Costa Rica for years, literally. And so he mentioned it to me like, hey, do you want to collaborate? I'm like, do I want to collaborate? Where do you want to go? Like, let's go to Costa Rica. Let's have at it. So
yeah, there's a bunch. There's a bunch that's in the chat. I'm not going to go through all the names because there's a lot, but they're all down for the trip, right? Like once Alicia started talking about it, everybody's like, yeah, I'm kind of down. And then Frederick has an interview with you talking about Costa Rica. Which, to the topic at hand, I bet Costa Rica is amazing for landscapes and.
Oh, it's amazing.
Right.
And I tell you what, having an infrared converted camera with you in Costa Rica is like such a great idea. You've got the beautiful light in the morning, you've got the beautiful light in the afternoon. So much of what you're shooting when you're going out for wildlife is under the canopy in the forest. So it's kind of dark. you need long lenses, but man, when the sunlight hits all that green, it just I mean, it's indescribable in infrared. So
Right, I imagine. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Jerry Collier asks, when did Kodak phase out infrared, high-speed infrared? Is there an infrared available nowadays? Last I knew of was Ilford. I, I don't know of any. I haven't touched film in 15 years, and I'm really in no hurry to, so I have no idea. I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Shooting infrared. So one of the interesting things is shooting infrared film. If anybody's playing with film, is your lenses focus at a different length, a different point, because
Hmm.
visible light and infrared light focus on the sensor or on the film plane. So to shoot film, you'd have to focus. Then you'd put on this like 15 stop, nearly pitch black infrared filter, and then you'd have to take your exposure and hope you calculated it right. With infrared and with the newer cameras, and I just happen to have my infrared converted Nikon sitting here. All you have to do is look through the viewfinder, and that's what it looks like. So you can literally see what your infrared is going to look like. Now, I've got the tonal curve inside the camera set to black and white, so you do get a better processing than without. But that's the difference, right? Like there's infrared, and if the moon was up, you could see the moon. The moon comes up like right there. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's why. When
And
I
that's the beautiful thing about the electronic viewfinder. I do the same thing. I set up I'm looking at monochrome through the camera, a little bit higher contrast, a little bit more like what my infrared image is going to end up being after the fact. So you can see in that black and white infrared. It's amazing. Yeah.
yeah. So what are some of your favorite subjects in infrared? Because infrared light is different, right? Like it's like seeing an unseen world. So do you have
Hmm.
favorite subjects?
Um, I think landscape is probably my favorite. I love it when the light is like dappled sunlight, for example, or if it's partially cloudy and you have some beams of sunlight coming through,
Mhm.
because then where the sun hits the foliage is, I mean, it looks like it's on fire in the pictures.
Right.
There's a spot, actually the same place where I took this picture in Costa Rica. It's on the backside of the Poas volcano, and shooting on from this catwalk, and it was super like rainy and foggy, but then the sun started to break through, so it's got this fog, and then there's just these bright white areas where the sun is beaming through on these huge leaves in the rainforest. And I mean, there's nothing like it. I get, you can process a regular raw file like that, but I mean, that's something that's really important. This is not like a different way to see black and white. This is literally different light that your camera is seeing.
Right.
You know, it's really hard to match.
And that's one of the hard things for people to understand until you've actually walked around. When I converted my first infrared camera, which was a D7000, so when you convert your camera, so let's get a little bit into the techie side of that. When you convert your camera, they actually put a filter over the sensor, and
Hmm.
that filter filters out a certain wavelength of light and gets you down to 590 nanometers, 720 nanometers, 800. Like there's different nanometers of how much visual light and infrared light comes through. And I'm interested to know if you know what yours is converted. I like to know what you're shooting. Um,
Hmm.
but when I converted that first camera, you want to try to do that through the live view if you don't have a mirrorless camera, because otherwise you have to calibrate a lens, like a single lens, and that's really kind of a bummer. But my first camera was a D7000, so we went on this road trip to Washington, and actually we went all the way up into Canada. I literally photographed the entire trip in infrared. I have almost no color shots.
Hmm.
I don't think I have a photo of it. Actually, well, maybe no. We came up on this bridge right by the ocean in Oregon, and it's green and it's gorgeous and blue skies. And I lifted my infrared camera and I went, oh, I have no color of that entire scene, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you? Do you tend to prefer things in infrared?
You know what? It's addictive, and to me, it's almost if this makes any sense, it reminds me um, of using a fisheye lens. It's such a unique perspective, and once you start seeing things that way, then it's really hard to not want to see everything that way.
Right.
And I definitely do go through period like where I think, well, if I'm shooting, like say Grand Teton National Park, I'm there. I've got a workshop group with me, and we're shooting in the morning, and then the light starts to get harsh. Well, guess what? You break out your infrared camera, and everything looks amazing again. And that overhead, just sunlight pouring in, it makes beautiful infrared pictures. So it really it allows you to shoot when you couldn't otherwise.
Well, and that's
Um,
an interesting point is that normally, color portrait landscape, we look for the best light, and so midday, bright sunlight, right? We tend to be like, yeah, it's going to be crappy. It's
mhm.
not so with infrared. Infrared can really bring out so many different textures and depths within an image, and because the camera is sensitive to infrared light, shade light has very little infrared. So shadows go darker. You have to expose correctly for the infrared light. And interestingly, like the moon is during the day, it's very hard to see against the blue sky, but it's reflecting infrared light. And the
Mm,
blue sky is ultraviolet. I got some photos I'll show you because I'm obsessed with chasing the moon.
cool.
Um, Mark Charette asks in the chat, what does snow look like in infrared?
It probably depends on whether the sunlight is hitting it, honestly. I mean, that's the thing. Like you were saying, in the shade, there's very little infrared there. So the shade just looks like dull gray.
Right.
But anything that the sun is bouncing off of, it lights up.
Right. And trees, I think you have a, let me go ahead and I'll pull up a photo here. I mean, you can tell me if this is, I couldn't tell exactly if this was infrared. So I'll have you tell me if this is
Okay.
infrared. It looks like it's infrared
Mm,
because of,
I honestly don't remember.
well, and that's great. But one of
That's
the interesting
hilarious.
points is that I was going to bring up is that not all greenery. So infrared isn't about heat. It's about the wavelength of light entering an object or bouncing off an object and then coming into the camera. So pine trees, succulents, like this image right here, because they're
Hmm.
semi-translucent, the infrared enters the object, right, or your subject, and then bounces back out.
Yeah.
But an image like this, it looks to me like those trees in the foreground are probably like it's probably like an oak tree or something.
I that probably is infrared.
Yeah, because oak trees
Now that you mention
don't look great in infrared light because the
it.
leaves
Hmm.
are so dense and so waxy. A lot of that info does
Right.
back. So let me show you a couple photos. Oh, I'm just gonna. That's one of my photos. That's
Oh, there you go.
so. This is
Hmm.
this is the moonrise over Hearst Castle. If you look sort of
Cool.
lower
Yeah.
right corner, yeah, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Could barely see the moon,
Hmm.
and so the moon does tend to pop out. This is another one on my way back from Vegas. There's a bridge.
Nice.
Couldn't tell you where it is. I'm looking back. Could barely see the moon during the day, but infrared, it
Hmm.
it's just amazing. So let's look at like this shot right here. This is actually on.
Yes.
This was featuring your class. We put this on the website. So tell us about this image right here. Where's this at? And
This is from a place. This is going to make me sad because this was a hotel called Leaves and Lizards in Costa Rica. That's the Arenal volcano, and this is the view from every cabin, from all 10 or 12 of their cabins. This is where I hosted my workshops for years. And my dear friend Stephen Debb, that owned that hotel, just sold it this summer. So it will still be a place, but it's not going to be my friend's place, and that kind of bums me out. But you can imagine this being your view every morning is a really good way to start the day. And this is a prime example of, like, you can see in the foreground all of that, farmland and the forest, and everything, just picking up that infrared and throwing it back out into the camera. It's just amazing with the black sky, the contrast between the clouds and the sky. I mean, I've got so many infrared shots from this vantage point.
Right. And how do you not do that with that foreground and clouds against the sky are just absolutely stunning. I mean, when you
Yes.
convert that to black and white, you can always pull the blue down, but it's
Hmm.
not the same. In infrared, it goes really, really, really dark.
That's right.
I was actually going to try to pull up. Oh, here we go. This is what. Let me go ahead and turn off the screen share real quick. So if you've never processed infrared, for those of you guys looking out there, if you've never processed infrared, this is what it looks like when it comes out of your camera and hits your raw editor. It's pink, right?
Hmm.
And you have to go through the process of editing that down. Now it's not just as simple. Well, for me, Rob, I'm interested. How do you start editing these images? What is your preferred method?
Gosh, it really depends. I work in Lightroom. Like every image I do goes through Lightroom. A lot of times I'll start in Lightroom with the raw conversion. Just hit V on the keyboard, and that takes you into monochrome mode, and then make adjustments in contrast from there. Um, Depending on the image and where it's going, I might use Photoshop. I might use um, Silver Effects Pro. That's been I haven't really found anything that's better than Silver Effects Pro for black and white conversion, whether it's infrared or not. So
Right.
um,
One of the things that I've learned is that there are actually two color channels in your infrared. There's a cyan and magenta, and
mhm.
my goal is to always get those two channels as separated as possible, and then it makes it easy for you to makes those conversions. So there's a number of ways to mess with your infrared images. We won't get into exactly how you edit those, but I actually switched from Lightroom to Capture One because Lightroom doesn't color calibrate 100%, like it won't pull out 100% with the eyedropper, and Capture
Mhm.
One will. You can create what's called a custom camera, what is it, custom DNG profile that pulls
Mhm.
out more of that red to kind of get that magenta hue out of there and see that separation.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the fun and the exploration of those images. Have you done any faux color infrared? Where you got like the
Like reversing the color channels, and I have, and honestly, it's just not my bag. I just don't like the color infrared. I like the black and white infrared.
yeah, I was gonna say
Um,
didn't really have any.
I've I mean, I get it, and I know how to do it.
Yeah.
Swapping the red and the blue channels. But I've never seen an image that's like that I thought, wow, that's really cool. I want to try to you know do something like that.
Yeah. So for those who are wondering, let me bring up. So Clarence, some of you guys know that I was going to try to interview Clarence from Spencer's Camera, who does all of my conversions. His father I think he said his father had a stroke, and so let's give him our best. So he wasn't able to come on, but on his website, he has this where he does what nanometers or what type of conversion, and basically what we're talking about is faux color is where you take these colors that you can kind of see right there, where it's kind of like a orange and a cyan, and you can flip them in Photoshop. You can create all kinds of different looks, create a blue sky with a yellow foreground, those kind of things. Rob, do you know what conversion you did on your camera?
I Most of mine are 720. I've done the standard color 3 out of 4 times. The other time I did I believe Light Pixel calls it the super color. So it's probably the 665 or something like that. So it lets a little more visible light in, so you get a little more color into it.
Yep.
And the idea of that is, if of course, then you have more color that you could play with for your black and white separation. I found in practice that I didn't see a huge benefit from it. Um, and the one I did after that, I went back to just the regular 720 nanometer.
Yeah, yeah.
What
That's
about you?
Peter Levshin, who's in the chat, he's a good friend of mine, and he is addicted to infrared. And we've gone through several conversions, and then we did the conversion and we added the filters, you know, and tried to play with that. And we always found ourselves putting the 720 filter on it all the time. So that is the wavelength that we like to use. Linda is
Hmm.
asking, hey Linda, what wavelength conversion is your camera? What's the difference between the different types of conversions? So just like what we just said, so 720 is what we use. I mean, that's what Rob said he used. So that is the
Yeah.
perfect nanometer to convert your camera to. If Rob and I have agreed, and that's what it is, that's what it should be. Um,
That's obviously the way.
that's
Obviously.
obviously the way. I mean, we know we have spent so much time doing this, but I'm going to jump back over to Spencer cameras. Depending on where you convert, like at the top of this row, you see it says standard color 720 nanometer. The further down you go, the more color it lets in. Um, is that, did I say that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. The more color it lets in, but also the more extreme the conversions can be, like when you convert them to black and white. I tend to really like the standard color, like the 720, because it also lets in enough visual light that it allows you to photograph even in moderate light and still get a monochromatic image. So in waning light, soft light, you can still shoot with it. If you get something that's converted really heavy or really tight nanometer bandwidth, it's once that light sets, it's black. You get nothing, you know, because there's no infrared light
Mm.
bouncing around. So Richard says color infrared looks like people with pink and green hair. He has it can. I mean, it can look like that. I mean, it just depends on how you edit it. Craig Stamfley in the chat, he's entered some images into the critiques, and he's posted some in Twit Pro that he's done of some of his models, and they're gorgeous. You have to do a little work on the eyes because the eyes are a
Hmm.
little bit dark
Yeah.
because that light doesn't come back. So let me get back over here. I want to get back into some of your images. You can tell us where these are. Let me share that.
This reminds me, I need to do a infrared gallery on my website.
Yes, you do, because what I had to do is I had to go through and screenshot I sniped all these out of your website.
I've got some pulled up too. I can share my screen too. But
Oh,
this is Tulum, Mexico, and I'm glad you pulled this one in particular up. This is from the first camera that I ever had converted to infrared. And this is a Canon G3
oh wow.
point and shoot, old school G3. This is probably 6 megapixels, maybe. And
Wow.
I had so much fun with that camera.
So
And
when you
and
mentioned megapixels, excuse me, when you mentioned megapixels, it was explained to me, and I'll let you share your screen after this. It was explained to me that when you convert to infrared, you're really throwing away like 33% of the resolution of your camera because
who really? I never heard that.
you're not using the green channel at all.
Ah.
So you're only using the red
Hmm.
and blue channel, which effectively, if you're not collecting any light in the green channel, you're effectively reducing the resolution by 33%. So I
Okay.
out there for you guys to figure out.
I don't know, man, because in my experience, every camera that I've ever had converted is actually sharper and feels more intense because when you take the see every camera has an infrared filter built into it.
Mhm.
There's a filter in front of your sensor that filters out the infrared light and only lets visible light in. And so when you replace that often or all the time, as far as I know, that also replaces the anti-aliasing filter. So the anti-aliasing filter is replaced with the infrared filter, and so therefore the sensor is that much sharper. Now a lot of mirrorless cameras I know have no anti-aliasing filter
Right.
to try to increase that risk. But every camera I've had is actually sharper once I've had it converted.
I think infrared is also a little bit crisper. I think that the way it diffracts, the way it makes shadows, the way it bounces around objects, it does tend
Hmm.
to be a little crisper. I agree. This is what here. Let me. I will highlight my video real quick. I am going to show you. Spotlight my video. So this is what the inside of the camera looks like. So there is your red sensor right inside, and they basically just put that right over your existing sensor. They take off the anti-moire and the other filter, like you said,
Hmm.
aliasing filter, and they put a little filter over it. Interesting. They can convert it back if you decide that you want to get rid of that camera or you no longer want to have it as infrared. You can
Hmm.
unconvert it.
Yep. It's all glass.
Yeah, I was very happy to know that. Let's see. Let me get nail some of these questions real quick. Jerry Collier says to detect infrared, look at the contrast, and the contrast will be more vivid. Yeah, yeah. Infrared is definitely more contrasty. Oh, Peter's asking, why do
Mm.
some lenses have greater hotspots in the middle of the frame? Are you familiar with what he's?
I sure am. The second camera I had converted, I think, was a Canon Rebel something, and you tried to use it with the kit lens, and it had this huge hot spot in the middle of it. Just no contrast, bright white spot. From the research that I've done since then, as far as I know, for one thing, some sensors don't do well with infrared conversion. Some sensors don't capture it, and apparently that sensor was one of those. I should have researched that before I did it, but um, I think mainly it's a function of the lens. It's a function of how the lens elements um, focus that infrared light, and some have hot spots. I actually found a website that had a chart of Olympus lenses and how prone they were to hot spots with infrared.
Ooh,
So
we need that for
and
all the bodies.
yeah, yeah, and I did I don't even remember how I found it, but what I thought was interesting about the Olympus catalog anyway was that the pro lenses, the nice, like sharpest glass you can get, was prone to hotspots, and the $200 and $300 not as pro lenses were not. So it's not necessarily the quality of the glass that does it. And I wonder, like the 17 millimeter f1.8 that I'm using right now for this, that one, according to this chart, has no hotspots with infrared. It's like a $300 lens,
Hmm.
but it's this big too, right? So the pro lens that's this big has hotspots. So maybe it's got 16 elements, and that throws the IR around to where it causes trouble. I don't know.
Yeah, my understanding is that the higher end lenses they have coatings that remove infrared,
Mm,
right? Because
that makes sense.
that contaminates. So I'm wondering if the lower end lenses don't have those coatings, and then there's a maybe a little bit
Sure.
more diffraction. Peter shoots Sony, and I
Hmm.
know that some of the lenses are just atrocious. Like you can't even use that lens anymore. I'm shooting
Right.
with Nikon and all the Z glass. I have no issues with those. So
Cool.
it's a mystery. So we have some questions in here. Well, Bruce says my understanding is that most cameras have an infrared filter that limits
Correct.
outline is removed during. You found
Yeah.
that to be the case too? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, your camera is designed to filter out infrared. They take that filter off and replace it with a visible light filter. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Linda is asking, what Olympus body did you convert to infrared?
You know what? I am sad to say I don't have an Olympus body converted right now. What I'm going to convert is my EM1 Mark II. That's what I'm going to have converted.
Yeah. Yeah. Linda, I think you shoot Olympus, right? Isn't that right? I don't remember what everybody shoots. I try to keep it in my head.
Yeah, I mean, now I shoot the EM1X and the EM1 Mark III most of the time, and then for my video stuff, I'm using the EM5 Mark III, and so my EM1 Mark II is not doing me any good, and it uses the same batteries as my main camera, so that'll be easy to travel with.
Oh, that's
And
very cool.
I'm excited about the high resolution mode, so I can shoot the stitched images at super high res and with the infrared. That'll be great.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Frank Peel, one of our attendees. Um, I'm going to read his paragraph because it's got a good answer in here. It says the hotspot is caused by reflections off the new infrared filter bouncing off the uncoated real element of some of the lenses. Color Vision offers a new conversion and anti-reflective coated filter. Okay, and I can attest that it really works to subdue hotspots. That's
Cool.
interesting. Yeah. It
Right on. Good to know.
it would be it is interesting to figure out what lenses work better though, because if you're invested in a system, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty important. There's a troublemaker in the Q&A. I'm going to ignore these questions.
That's right. Okay, well, you know what? Let's just answer his question. Let's ask this question. So
Yes.
Frederick says, in terms of overall image quality, is full frame better? Same. You know,
That
worse than
guy.
Micro
Come
Four
on.
Thirds. Let's let Rob answer that, right? Because all joking aside, there's differences in these bodies. There's differences in these sensors. They lend themselves to uh, certain subject matter, right? And you being a Micro Four Thirds guy, you can probably answer that better than I can.
Sure. Well, I'm a professional photographer and a photography teacher, and I'm not going to use equipment that doesn't work for what I need it to work for. Right. So talking to a friend of mine who's a Sony shooter,
Mm-hmm.
he's got I can shoot my 20 megapixel Micro Four Thirds lens. I get a 2x crop on my telephoto lenses. I shoot a lot of wildlife, right? So I can shoot a 1200 millimeter equivalent, right, at f8 with my 300 f4 and a 2x teleconverter. Okay, the lens is this big, right? I can do that. I can also put a wide angle lens on and shoot in high resolution mode and get whatever it is, a 50 megapixel or an 80 megapixel image if I need to.
Right.
So I was talking to my buddy who shoots a 50 megapixel or 48 megapixel Sony camera, and I said, I know he shoots some wildlife. I said, do you ever shoot in crop mode? And he's like, yeah, sometimes. I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, yeah, I still get a 20 megapixel image. I'm like, great. So we're really getting the same thing just from other ends. And he's like, no, not at all. I'm like, yeah. When you want to get extra reach out of your lens, you're shooting 20 megapixels.
Right.
When you need a full frame landscape image, you can shoot 48 megapixels. I can do the exact same thing, but my lenses are smaller. So I have to carry all my lenses. So for me, I'd rather have that. I don't want 50 megapixels every time I pull the trigger. 20 megapixels is more than enough for me, and I'd rather have that extra reach without having to crop. So,
and being a wedding photographer, I do not enjoy having megapixel files. However, I crop a lot. So, full frame, large megapixels work for me. It's just all the other negative aspects of having to have that file size. That's why I
sure.
have like 50 terabyte RAID storage, because I need that. So,
Right.
yeah, that's awesome. That's a good answer. I like that. I like that answer. You use the equipment that works for you, right? Like we tease, Frederick and I, like, we go back and forth, and it's in the community we tease a lot, but ultimately, you know what? If whatever works for you, just go create. Just stop messing with gear. The gear is getting in everybody's way, right?
Right.
Just go create stuff. Stop reading
Yes.
blogs.
If you get to the point with your camera where you want to make a particular image and your camera won't do it with an acceptable image quality, then go shop for something else. Until that point, like you said, go make a picture and just have fun with it. Right.
When new photographers come to me or they're looking at buying new gear, or they want to buy new gear, Frederick, okay, I'm gonna put him.
Sarah, who's moderating this chat? I mean,
I always tell everybody, go to the camera store when you can, fondle all the gear, and whatever fits the best in your hand, that's the stuff that you should buy.
yep.
You can make anything. You can make anything work. Let's get to a couple more of our questions. We're getting a good feedback here.
I have not done insect macro in infrared. That would be interesting, though. No telling what color they would look.
Insects are crazy cool in infrared. I photographed some spiders. Joshua is our resident insect and reptile specialist and macro. He's got more macro lenses than I have regular lenses. And macro insects are crazy cool. So, I have a question for you, Rob. Have you ever, you can convert your strobe to an infrared strobe?
Yes. You know what? We were talking about this on TWIP the other day. the Lumix. I don't remember the big Lumix flash, but it actually comes with an IR diffuser,
I remember you.
and
I
it's
remember you saying
the best. Yeah, it's so cool. I have the craziest pictures of people. They look like zombies because their eyes are all black because their pupils are huge. And
so. All I did was this is a like a $9 Amazon infrared filter that's 720 nanometers. You could put this on a spotlight, a flashlight, doesn't matter what it is. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not going off. Okay.
mm-hmm.
And you can go out in the pitch black and you can fire this thing at, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I learned that most animals cannot see infrared light.
Oh, nice.
So you can photograph reptiles and cats and dogs and raccoons and possums and whatever, and they are not distracted by that light.
Cool.
So insects would be really freaking cool.
Excellent.
I've done a
That'd be great for tree frogs because they get really upset when you hit them with a bunch of light in the forest at night.
when you go to Costa Rica, everybody who goes is going to have infrared cameras. So
Yes.
we'll have to do an
Yes.
infrared strobe green tree frog.
Heck yeah, man.
They're
In the
probably all
cloud forest.
translucent inside, and we'll,
Yeah. Oh man, the glass tree frogs would be amazing like that. You can, I mean, even in normal light, you can see their insides. That'd be really cool.
yeah, yeah. Let's jump into Michael. So Michael says Troy mentioned that the mirrorless cameras have several advantages over DSLR for infrared conversions. How important are those advantages? I do not yet have an infrared camera and will have one very soon after this webinar and want to know how much benefit I can get out of a new mirrorless camera conversion rather than converting my 3-year-old DSLR. As a follow-up to that last question, I'm trying to convince my wife on why I need a new camera body.
Well, Michael, I think that the obvious answer is that you need. I think Olympus mirrorless cameras are the best for infrared conversions, and you should tell your wife that I said so. Um, I think I don't want to jump in front of you, Troy, but having an electronic viewfinder makes a huge difference when shooting infrared, and it makes it so much more fun. If you're shooting your DSLR and you're looking through the lens through the prism, you're not going to see that infrared light. And there's lots of times, I don't know about you, that I've just thought, I don't know, I don't think this will make a good infrared picture, but I'm going to look through the viewfinder and see. And I've learned, like, oh my God, that makes an amazing infrared. That's taught me how to work with infrared better. So like you said, using live view if you can, if you don't have an electronic viewfinder, is huge.
Yeah. So, who is it? Kim Shapiro's in here. She is the buyer of all my old equipment. She has she has a couple. She has one of my infrared cameras, and if you're gonna use an old DSLR, right? Like so, Michael specifically, if you're gonna convert, like a D800 or D850 or something, you have to put a viewfinder, a cone on the back because in the sunlight you can't see your image in the rear viewfinder that you have to focus with, and that's really 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 frustrating. One of the reasons I actually switched to Sony for several years and they were all infrared cameras was because I can use it like a normal camera. I can pick it up, I can shoot, I can go away. I can use all of the features that that mirrorless cameras offer, which things like focus peaking. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's one reason to switch, right? Like Rob, focus peaking. You got to have focus peaking.
For sure. And a focusing system that uses contrast detection when you're working with infrared, which is a different wavelength of light
Yeah.
and may not work with the phase detect, is enormous.
Well, I hadn't considered all that stuff. So
Don't know.
I think my new Nikons do a pretty good job. So I haven't really had a message.
I gotta find my power cord. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be right back.
Okay. What I was gonna show you guys is what focus peaking looks like. Here we go. So and this is just sort of speaking to mirrorless. I know some of you guys are already shooting mirrorless. So let me switch over. Here we go. There's my A10 Mini doing its job. So if I focus, let me see, I don't know if you guys can see that. There is red that appears across the keys. Is that showing up at all? I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, doesn't look like you can see the focus peaking in there. But basically, oh, there it is,
Oh,
right
there
there.
it is.
Yeah. So that red, that is where it is in focus. Okay. And that is amazing. So if you're going to be shooting macro now, so now what I can do is I can move in and you can actually see how that focus wash area. I don't know. There's got to be a technical term for what that's called, right? That's actually
I think it's swash.
the depth of field. This in and of itself is a huge reason for that mirrorless option. So
Yep.
landscapes and things like that. Yeah, yeah, you can really see the difference. Michael says, "Perfect answers, Troy and Rob. A mirrorless camera, it will be."
Glad to help.
Yeah. And Linda asks, "How much is a conversion?" Linda, it's between $200 to $300, $350, depending on the camera. I've never done a Micro Four Thirds conversion, so I don't know what they cost. I think my
Hmm.
six cost me like 300 and some odd dollars.
Yeah, the EM1 Mark II, I just looked at it, was like 350,
Okay.
which is $100 more than my last one. But I mean, it's been a few years since I got one done. So
And if you guys are interested, I just typed in Spicy Jello 25. If you go to spencercameras.com, it's $25 off any $200 or greater conversion, which most
cool.
conversions I think are over $200 anyway.
Yeah.
And Clarence also offers, I think it's if you want to unconvert your camera, he charges you half of what it costs to convert it because he's essentially pulling the mirror out and he's got to put a, whatever filter back in there. So, yeah. So if you're
Cool.
looking to do that, that's super cool. Rob, let's jump into some of your images. Like you said, you got some images to share. Let's.
Yeah, let's see. Um, there's a few things that with the infrared really sings with, and we mentioned clouds and against the sky. And this was obviously, I mean, you can tell where this is in Arizona, but the atmospherics just are out of control in infrared. They're so beautiful. And this cloud formation was amazing in real life anyway, but then to see so much different tonality even that you could with your eyeballs with the infrared light was amazing.
Yeah, like the crepuscular rays. Did I say that right? Is that what they're called? The light rays, the God rays that come through the clouds. Those tend to stand out differently in infrared. They're much more obvious. So there's light quality that you see. Did we lose Rob? He froze. He froze in a good pose though. There you. Now I see him.
Hello. Okay. Are you there?
Yep, you're good. You froze in a
Okay.
really nice complimentary pose though. That was really good.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's see. Wait a minute. No, I want to go to the next picture, man.
It's tech. It doesn't.
Okay, here we go. I think this is a cool example of infrared. This is in Maine, and I love the way that the foreground is just lit up, and the little fishing shack is just lit up with the infrared light bouncing off of it, and then the way that the infrared comes through the fog in the distance, I think is really cool. This is one of those things that, like I mentioned, when I looked through the camera, I thought, oh wow, that does look cool. Sometimes with infrared, I'll find myself just looking to see what happens. Just hold up the camera and just see what's going to be bouncing around, because you don't see that light. You could barely see the trees in the distance with your eyeballs because they were through the fog, but the infrared cut through.
That was one of the things when we took our trip up north through Canada and Washington and Oregon on the coast. You get a lot of offshore fog and stuff, and it was amazing to look through the camera and be like, oh my gosh, there's buildings in there.
Yeah, for sure. That's and this, I mean, again, in Costa Rica, with everything's green in Costa Rica, and here you are on the backside of a volcano by this waterfall. This is the same place where I took the picture that's behind me. And if I've got several shots from this spot where it's just overcast and kind of cloudy and foggy, and that's fine. But once the sun starts to peek through and starts to light up some of this greenery, the contrast is amazing. And just the luminance, you know. It starts to look like those old the infrared film pictures that you're used to seeing. It has that glow to it. It's really beautiful.
Right. Infrared light is more likely to penetrate deeper as well into
Hmm.
cavities and water and things like that. So yeah, so it really like I love that.
Yeah, thanks, man. And this is another one. This is actually with the camera that I had converted had um, the panorama features. So, like you said, with the mirrorless cameras, you can still use all the features of the camera. So I did a big sweep panorama, you know, and in infrared, it's just the way it plays with contrast, the way that the every little beam of light is like an explosion. I just love it.
Right. And you know that's a good point is that that camera is fully functional as you know with infrared, which means you can shoot video, you can create time lapse, you can do focus stacking, you can do HDRs, you can do all the stuff you do in color. Now you can do those in infrared. And you know, most of your friends will never have an infrared camera. So you'll be the only one. Those images, right? Because let's face it, it takes a little bit of bravery to send your camera off and have it converted to something specific that you can't really use it for anything else other than that infrared.
That's true. Not to mention, a lot of people are not crazy like photographers are. So we'll take a $1,500 camera body and throw another $300 at it once it's basically obsolete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that we can make something else out of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not what normal people do.
No, no, it's not what normal people do. No, I don't have the photo to show, but just talking about like once you start playing with infrared as maybe you're gathering from some Rob's and my enthusiasm is you want to walk around and you'll be walking around and go like, I wonder what that looks like. Oh, wait, wonder what that looks like, you know, and you start like
Hmm.
looking in puddles, like, can I see to the bottom of that? Oh my God, there's fish in there. You know?
Yep.
That's exactly what happens. Let me show you this image right here. So one of the things that I really love is I love water. And this is actually shot in infrared, and then I colorized it. Now,
Cool.
you might ask, why? Why would you shoot a blue wave with infrared and then make it blue again? Well, because the infrared light is actually illuminating more of the depth of the wave itself, right? The water. And so
Hmm.
we found that the waves themselves actually look better with this treatment than shooting them in color and trying to increase the contrast and things like that.
Far out. I don't know if I've ever photographed water except for streams and waterfalls and things. I don't think I've ever shot the ocean in
Oh,
infrared.
it is sick amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so Craig Stampley, are you listening? He's in Craig is in Australia, and I think Mark Charette is in here. They're in Australia. Craig has this beach that he shoots these waves that I just hate him for. And they would look amazing in infrared. Here's another shot that I did in infrared that I just love. I was down in where are we at Morro Bay, and
Mm.
I looked down into the bay, and there's this jellyfish just moving along, but you could barely see him. And infrared, he just exploded. So did
Wow.
all the crap that was floating around in the water. So I had I removed all the detritus that was in there. But those are some of the things that you can chase and that you can find, of
Very
course,
cool.
when you're surrounded by green, like what
Yeah.
you've shown. This is in the Olympic National Forest up in Washington, and infrared haven, just crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The rainforest is the place to have an infrared camera.
So you will for sure have an infrared day when you're in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah. Oh,
every
I do want to show you this one picture too. This other panorama.
while
Let's
you're
see.
finding that, Michael,
Shazam.
can you also do long exposures with infrared? I'm thinking about flowing water.
Show enough.
Absolutely. Streaky clouds, I mean, whatever you would do with a traditional camera, it is the same. It doesn't
Yeah.
change. Yeah.
This image is pretty much all the things I love about infrared. The sky is almost black behind the clouds. You get the contrast with the clouds. The streaks of sunlight across the greenery in the foreground. It helps to create that background, that Ansel Adams, dark light,
Yeah.
contrast going back. I mean, this is I love this image as an infrared anyway. But
I was trying to find there. I'm looking over here at my laptop because I have so many infrared over there. I actually have I keyword all my infrared, so they're just hundreds and thousands of them. And the more that you talk about infrared, the more that you're like, oh that image.
mm-hmm,
So
for sure.
yeah. Alicia, what does Alicia say? Well, all that's left for me is to decide what freaking Nikon I want to. uh, you know, I think like a Z50, if you want to do the crop sensor, or the Z5 is probably really good for conversion because it's cheaper than the Z6 and it's got really decent resolution. And she's a Nikon shooter, so that's the only reason I'm promoting.
Mm-hmm,
that.
sure.
Um, but if you can get into the mirrorless, I think you'll be stoked with that.
So Mark wants to know if I'm not sure what PT GUI what PT stands for, but if it would find it hard to put stitching points for panoramics, and I don't think so. There's plenty of contrast. There's plenty of detail that whatever software would be able to stitch a panoramic, no problem.
Yeah, I've never used PT GUI. Mark is our resident 360-degree expert.
Oh, okay.
So he does a lot of 360-degree stuff. So I'm wondering if PT GUI would be the stitcher for that. I've done panos with Lightroom, Photoshop, whoever, Affinity Photo. They've had no problems with infrared whatsoever
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of contrast. There's a lot of detail points for it to grab.
Yeah. I mean, it's in effect a black and white image or just a differently colored image. It's not, the detail and stuff is still there. So.
Yeah, storms are also one of those really fun things. I've
Mm-hmm.
got a let me grab the screen share real quick. So like images, let me switch this over. So images like this right here, where I was out in Red Rock chasing storms and the clouds were just insane. We were doing, this is an HDR, so there were 3 images. I was trying to get the train to come through. Well, I wasn't trying to get the train to come through. I was waiting for the train to come through. The train never came through. Let's look at some of your color images. Tell me, we'll kind of get off the infrared subject for a little bit. Talk to me about your landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
This is really cool. Very.
Thanks, man. That looks crazy on your screenshot, but yeah, this was out at the VLA, the Very Large Array radio telescope in New Mexico,
Oh wow.
and obviously what's crazy is how far away we were from anything and how much light pollution is on the horizon. But the VLA is in the absolute middle of nowhere, but you can still see the lights from Albuquerque, I guess. But yeah, we did a little bit of light painting on the radio telescope, and I've got a few shots from there. It's what a crazy place to shoot. It's 15 miles, I think. And there's an X-shaped track, if I remember correctly, where they move all these giant telescopes. And this telescope is probably 200 or 300 feet across. Like the dish is absolutely ginormous. And so they'll move the telescopes on a track, depending on what they're trying to look at out in space. So you kind of, if you get a chance to go out there and shoot, you kind of get what you get as far as where the dishes are and how they're pointed and everything else. But we just lucked out and got to get it, with the Milky Way basically sort of coming out of it. That was really cool.
So that sounds like the Rob Knight workshop, TWIP workshop #2.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. We were at the Festival of the Cranes in November. Every year they do a big photography festival for the sandhill crane migration and snow geese migration in Bosque del Apache. And my buddy Roman Kuracek did a trip out to the VLA one night, and I got to go with him. So
Nice.
it was cool.
Nice. I know that Craig Stampley in Australia on the East Coast. I don't know what the array is, but he posted some images out there, and I just never seen anything done like that. And I thought, man, what if there's a place for us to go to do that? Because the Australians aren't letting us in right now. So,
Right. Or anybody else.
or anybody else. Yeah.
I think 6 states can visit Costa Rica now, but
Oh, oh, very cool. Terrence is asking for Nikon lens and infrared passing. Oh, okay. See the Scandian photographer for a comprehensive list. And then what would Spencer's light pollution filter get rid of light pollution? I don't know anything about the light pollution filter that's on there. I'm not quite sure how that works. I know that if you call and you talk to Spencer's, you can talk to Clarence. Clarence is extraordinarily helpful. He's the owner. He'll be really happy to help you. What is this?
oh yeah. That is a good story. I'm glad you asked me that, man.
Well, and I
So,
just want to let everybody know that these images are amazing, and the way we're seeing them are amazing. And I screenshotted these off his website, so we're not even doing these justice by looking at these. So
so this was the first time I did a workshop in Costa Rica. The first time I led a workshop in Costa Rica. When I had decided to lead workshops in this spot, this is the Arenal volcano. The first 2 times I went to this area, Arenal erupted like Old Faithful. Like every 10 minutes, lava would come out. It was amazing, right? So I come back with 10 photographers to take pictures, and they say, oh, yeah, it hasn't really erupted in about 6 months. And I go, oh my God. So this is the view. This is from the restaurant in the hotel. Okay. So, and I showed you the pictures earlier from, this is the view from every cabin from the restaurant. And this is the view.
oh,
So we've been there a week. It's the last night. It's Friday night, my first ever workshop that I led to Costa Rica. Everything went great. And one of the participants, her husband was actually standing kind of outside of the restaurant smoking a cigarette, I think. And I said, now, Kenny, keep an eye on the volcano because I've arranged an eruption for the last night. I thought it would be a really nice way to kind of end the workshop, And he was like, right, okay, sure. Dude, when I say 15 minutes later, lava was coming out of that thing, like I heard, oh my God. And everybody's tripping out, and the volcano, sure enough, lava's coming out of the volcano. It was erupting. So that was great, except for I was on a 4-wheeler on my way back to the cabin to get whatever, my projector or something like that, because I was going to do a class for the group. So I didn't even see it.
oh.
Everybody else got it. So
Photographers are knocking each other over, trying.
yes, it's amazing. Everybody got to see the lava, shoot the lava. It was great, except for me. So everybody's done. The eruption stops. I get back. I did my little class, and then I go back to my cabin and I set up my camera, and I said, I am not leaving this spot until I get a picture of lava coming out of that volcano. And my now ex-wife was like, what are you going to do if it doesn't erupt? I'm like, I'll be here till morning. I don't care. Like, this is going to happen. And I had to sit there for about an hour and a half, and sure enough, it erupted one more time, and I got that shot. And then it erupted. That was in September 2009. It erupted one more time in November that year, and that was the last time that lava came out of that sucker.
Oh my gosh. And it's
Crazy.
funny when you talk about you're going to sit there and wait. And non-photographers do not understand the tenacity and how tenacious and just how focused we are. Like, nope, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to wait for the train. I'm going to wait for the lava. No, you go ahead. I'm fine. Bring me back some French fries. Like, I'm not moving.
That's right.
Yeah. Bruce, I think Bruce Benet is still in the chat. Like, he photographs birds. And I mean, I know that you got to have some patience. That's why I don't photograph birds, right? Like, I'm not going to go to the spot where the birds come and wait. That's hard for me to do, but that's how you get those amazing images.
True.
So the infrared that you showed us earlier, this one, that's the same mountain?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't connect the two, but
yeah, that resort is the same. It's basically built on sort of 3 ridges, and all the cabins have that they all face that direction.
That is just so cool. That is such a neat shot. I love that. And that has to be, I'm guessing, what, 30 seconds, 35 seconds, somewhere in there.
Probably so. Yep. Yep.
A little that we'll forgive the star streaks because you got the light.
Yes, and Michael says the next lava will certainly happen during the TWIP workshop in Costa Rica, and I will. Frederick Van Johnson will certainly guarantee that personally, or he will pay for your trip.
At least to buy a round of drinks, right? At least a round of drinks.
That's yes. He'll either pay for your trip to Costa Rica or buy you a mojito, whichever comes first. But yes.
Well, Rob, I don't know. You and I may have chatted about it, but in the image critiques that we do, I tend to mention infrared so much that we have this sort of inside joke that there's a drinking game that should be happening every time we say infrared during one of the image critiques. They're supposed to drink. I don't know if they are. I don't know how diligent but
you don't know how drunk they are.
So let's move on to this guy.
Cool.
This is Mormon Row in
Yep.
Grand Tetons National Park outside Jackson Hole.
Sure enough.
Yeah, tell me about this.
Man, that is that's kind of a bittersweet spot for me. I don't know if it's my old school punk rock problem with authority, but when everybody tells me where to stand and make a picture, I want to go somewhere else and make a picture. So I'm usually closer than everybody or farther back or to the side. But this one morning, the light was just gorgeous. This makes me happy because I've got a workshop in the Tetons the end of this month. So in 3 weeks, I'll be there, and it'll be my first trip since March. I'm super stoked about it. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you get there? I mean, no pun intended. I know there's a small airport in Jackson Hole. Do you fly into Jackson Hole or do you fly?
Yep.
Okay.
Fly into Jackson Hole. This is the only airport inside of a national park. I'm from Atlanta. I'll connect through either Denver or Chicago.
Oh, okay. Okay. We went there a couple years ago. We did the Yellowstone. It was like literally the day after they opened up the park after for winter, and stayed there for like a week, and then we drove into Jackson Hole. And I've heard Jackson Hole, I've heard Mormon Row, I've heard all those places before, but you literally come down into the valley from what would be the north side or the Yellowstone side, the other end, and you come driving in, and you're just like, oh my God. It's so big. The valley, it's so big. It's so vast. And no matter where you turn your head, you're looking at something that is just freaking amazing.
Yes.
And you got to take your infrared converted camera and you got to go stick them in the Ansel Adams tripod holes and photograph the Snake River.
Yep. Snake River overlook, no doubt.
Yeah, you got to do that. It's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Michael is going to be there 25th. All right. Well, email me, dude, and we'll be.
Oh, nice.
Cool. And Linda's going to be there too. All right. We got to have a drink in Jackson Hole,
Look
man.
at that.
That's cool.
Gonna have a little gathering. That's awesome. I didn't know that there was a thing going on there. Otherwise, I'd have made plans.
It's a good time of year. It's their fall, and it's a good time of year. I do a trip in the spring, which is in June actually out there, and then another in the fall every year. So had to cancel spring. I'm ready to go. Yeah. But it's funny, isn't it? You get used to when you're there for a week, you get used to just having the Teton range always right there. And, I get home to Atlanta, I'm like, man, there's no giant mountains anywhere around here. It's just ubiquitous. It's always there anywhere you go in that area, you can see it.
Yeah, where we live, I'm in Southern California, so we have a mountain range. It's not a Teton level mountain range, but I'm used to seeing mountains and big hills and things like that. And seeing those, being around mountains all the time, when you go to the Tetons and you look at them, they're absolutely massive and they're incredibly vertical. Right. There's not this long sloping gradual. So they're beautiful to photograph. And they have some killer lakes. Do you ever go photograph the lakes around there?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of the stuff that we can't really get to with a permit to teach. Like when you have a group permit, you have to stay within a half a mile of the car. So like we can't do the ferry to, different places and that kind of thing. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's interesting. That's good to know. But it's a fun town. So If somebody wanted to come to one of your workshops or find out more about what you're doing, how would they, if they want to stalk you, they're going to stalk Rob Knight. Like you're their new favorite Instagram high. How are they going to find you?
My social media stuff is all Rob Knight Photo. It's Knight with a K. And my website is robknightphotography.com. And you can find links there. A lot of the workshops that I lead are through Wildside Nature Tours. My Tetons trips are through Wildside. I just went to Peru. Actually, the last trip I got to take before the world closed was to Peru to live on a riverboat on the Amazon River for 10 days, photographing birds and monkeys and stuff. That was outrageous.
And
So,
some of that stuff is on your website. I'm not going to show
mhm.
it because if you want to see his travel stuff, go and look at his website. His website's really
That's right.
cool. I love looking at the images, and
Cool. Thank you, man.
I don't get to go create enough fun images for me. I tend to be stuck doing, my weddings and my portraits, which I love. Um,
Hmm.
but the idea of getting out into the world, like when once I saw the Grand Tetons, I was like, oh man, I need a road trip so bad.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
And
I
we
know.
love to drive, like our family, like me and my daughter and my wife, like we love to drive everywhere. So we drove to Yellowstone and then the Tetons and then back home, and it's
Cool.
all about food and where we're going to photograph.
Yes.
Like,
Well, I always joke that my trips are actually culinary trips, and I take cameras so we have something to do between meals because I love to eat, man, and it's all good food for
yeah,
sure.
the
Yeah.
first the first time that I ever had Brussels sprouts was in Jacksonville, Wyoming. On my what was that? That would have been our 25th wedding anniversary. We went out to dinner. My daughter bought us dinner, which was really fun. And the waiter suggested we have Brussels sprouts as an appetizer. And we're like, yeah, whatever. Oh my gosh. And
Hmm.
Margie's making
They're
Brussels
good.
sprouts tonight for dinner. I can't.
Nice. If you're the next time you're in Jackson Hole, we eat at Bubba's Barbecue probably half of the meals that we have. It's just like a good old fashioned mom and pop like breakfast, lunch, and dinner place. It's always kind of it's a big enough place where you might have to wait a minute, but you can always get a big plate of pancakes and eggs and everything. Um, that's a staple. Big Hole Barbecue is really good. Terrible name, really good barbecue. And then the Gun Barrel. We always close out our workshops at the Gun Barrel. It is a game restaurant, so you can get like elk
Oh,
chops that are this big, and Fred Flintstone rack of ribs kind of stuff. It's an experience
I
for
want to go
sure.
just
It's
for the
very.
food. I just want to go just for that. That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
See.
that's super cool. Well, I will
Yes.
make sure to put all of your social media links and stuff in the YouTube channel description, so that
Awesome.
if nobody got them, they'll be there. So we'll link back to that, and they can stalk you and find you. Um, Rob, thank you for being on. That it's awesome. Just everybody needs to know that this man responded to me like 6 days ago, maybe not even 6 days ago, and said, "Yeah, I'll do it." I'm like, okay, this guy's rad. He's helping me out. And it was fun. You and I wanted to talk about infrared anyway, and this is a really fun way to do that. So
Yeah.
for those of you, I know there's a good contingency of you in here that aren't part of the TWIP Pro community. That's something that you guys really ought to look into. It's thisweekinphoto.com, and Frederick Van Johnson, who is in the chat, that is his community. It's kind of all of our community, but he is the boss leader of our community. And that's, Rob is in there. That's how we met up. So you can always reach out to me or reach out to Rob or Frederick or any of the other group that's there. So it's a really fun place for us to kind of chat, and he's the custodian of the community. That's a good way to I like
That's a word I've never used to describe Frederick.
it's
That's funny.
yeah. We kind of look at it, and Frederick kind of explained it to me. It's like an airport lounge. It's like that private airport lounge. You can
I like it.
a membership
I like it. The Sky Club. Yeah.
nightclub, and when you're there, everybody's family and everything's cool. It's a good place to be. Yeah, it's really great. So
I like it. That's a good idea. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and also for anybody that's interested, Twitch. is going to be one of the new places that you're going to start to see Frederick. I've been there a little bit, not really doing a lot streaming there. Joshua Sommerfeld, he is the low base guy on Twitch. He goes there and he edits his reptiles and his snakes and his insects and stuff. It's really fun to watch him and to do his 3D rendering, which is amazing. So be sure to check out and keep your ear to I don't know, I was going to say to the grindstone, but that would be wrong, right? To the rails, right? I don't know. It's getting
Ear to the ground. I think the ear goes to the ground.
maybe the caffeine's wearing off. So,
Uh,
so anyway,
good luck to us all. Thanks so much for having me, Troy. I really
yes,
appreciate it. That was fun.
Rob, it's amazing. I will get this edited and posted probably in the next 45 days. You know, Frederick. He's always giving me a hard time how he does it like the next day. So thanks again, guys. Everybody, if you need to get hold of Rob, his description will be in the, I'll put his details in the description of the YouTube channel, but you can also find him on Twit Pro. So if you're already there, reach out to him, Rob Knight, and, you know, talk to him about this Costa Rica trip and the trip to the Big Array. And
as soon as you guys want to go to Costa Rica, you let me know. I'm actually working on a private Costa Rica trip for the summer next year, but my January trip got sort of postponed. So you let me know when you want to go. We'll go.
nice.
For sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will catch you later. Thanks again, Rob. Everybody be safe and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, man. Cheers.